They never tell you this. Leadership isn't about power. It's about mastering the invisible forces inside yourself and others. Forces so subtle that only a few ever truly understand them. If you think leadership is about titles or authority, you're already behind. I learned this truth the hard way. I thought leadership was about making big decisions, setting grand visions, and commanding respect. I remember the first time I realized that leadership isn't just about logic or plans. It's about emotion, real, raw emotion that lives deep in the brain. My mind was racing with ideas, but my team seemed distant, unmotivated. I felt frustrated. Then I learned about the amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm system. If I triggered fear or anxiety, no strategy would work. People shut down, became defensive, or simply checked out. So I started experimenting. I slowed my voice. I softened my words. I paid attention to the unspoken signals, the tension in shoulders, the hesitation in eyes. I learned to create emotional safety before even discussing goals. That small shift transformed everything. People opened up. They became willing to follow me, not because I ordered them, but because they trusted me. This isn't just soft talk. Neuroscience backs it up. When leaders create psychological safety, the brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Teams connect, collaborate, and innovate. But here's what 99% of CEOs won't admit. This isn't a one-time effort. It's a constant practice, a mental workout that rewires your brain and theirs. Then came anticipation, the ability to read the room before stepping in. I realized I wasn't just leading people. I was leading the patterns beneath their behavior. The tiny habits, the fears, the hopes they rarely voiced. This skill comes from training your prefrontal cortex to simulate future scenarios. The hardest lesson I learned was about emotional neutrality. At first, I thought being passionate meant showing every high and low, every victory and every failure. But I noticed something. When I let emotions run wild, my team mirrored that chaos. Panic spread, or overconfidence blinded us to risks. So I started practicing what I call emotional balance. It's not about suppressing feelings. That's impossible. It's about observing them like a scientist, curious, calm, detached. I train my brain to notice the surge of adrenaline or fear and then label it. Just naming an emotion reduces its power. The brain's prefrontal cortex calms the amygdala down. This habit created a new kind of leadership presence. People began to see me as steady, reliable. When storms hit, I became the calm center. That calmness spread faster than any memo or pep talk. Another secret CEOs hide is counterintuitive thinking. Everyone chases trends, follows the crowd, repeats the same best practices. But leadership is about going where no one else dares. It's about spotting the silent signals, the subtle shifts before they become obvious. I started training myself to look backwards as much as forwards. When everyone rushed toward the next shiny opportunity, I asked myself, what's being ignored? What's been left behind? This contrarian mindset rewired my neural pathways to seek novelty, to embrace uncertainty rather than fear it. The brain's natural tendency is to avoid uncertainty. It's hardwired for safety. But great leaders hack that system. They expose themselves to small doses of unpredictability daily. They get comfortable in discomfort. One technique I used was mental simulation. I imagined worst-case scenarios and then created backup plans, not to scare myself, but to strengthen my brain's ability to handle stress. This practice actually grows neural connections in areas responsible for resilience. When your brain feels prepared, it stops reacting impulsively. It stays strategic. There's another skill I had to master, hypnotic communication. At first, the word hypnotic felt strange, almost manipulative. But I soon realized it's simply about connecting deeply with people's subconscious minds. It's about speaking in a way that bypasses resistance and speaks directly to belief and emotion. I started paying attention to rhythm, tone, and story. The most powerful leaders don't just deliver facts. They tell stories that create vivid mental images. stories that make people feel seen, understood, and inspired. While I used this approach, meetings transformed. People didn't just listen, they followed willingly. They didn't feel pushed, they felt drawn. Neuroscience reveals why this works. Our brains are wired to respond to narrative and repetition. When you tell a story that resonates emotionally, it activates multiple brain areas: memory, emotion, sensory processing. This makes your message stick even when people aren't paying full attention. I practiced this daily, crafting simple stories that conveyed vision and values. I avoided jargon and complicated ideas. Instead, I spoke as if I were painting a picture, inviting my team into a shared future. That future became magnetic. Another CEO's secret is designing systems that think for you. You can't lead well if you're buried in trivial tasks or distractions. So I built routines, delegated relentlessly, and automated where I could. This freed my brain to focus on. I learned that mastering flow is another secret few talk about. Flow is that rare state where time slows down, focus sharpens, and your brain performs at its peak with ease. Neuroscience shows flow happens when your skills perfectly match the challenge in front of you. Too easy, and you get bored. Too hard, and you get anxious. I engineer my days to hit that sweet spot. I set clear goals that stretched me, but didn't break me. I eliminated distractions that pulled me away. When I entered flow, decisions felt effortless, ideas came in waves, and energy was endless. The emotional power of competition is also misunderstood. Most people see competition as a threat, something to fear or fight. But I learned to see competition as a mirror, a reflection of my own strengths and weaknesses. When I stopped fearing competitors and started studying them, I discovered hidden insights. Every move they made revealed what they believed and what they feared. I stopped chasing their success and instead read their patterns, using that knowledge to carve my own path. This shift rewired my brain's threat response. Competition became motivation, not stress. Fear transformed into curiosity. This mindset alone gave me an edge that no marketing budget or sales tactic could buy. I also uncovered the power of asking the right questions. Most people ask what's easy to answer or what everyone else is asking. But CEOs dive deeper. I trained myself to ask questions that unsettled assumptions, that forced me to look where no one was looking. Instead of how can I win, I asked, why do others fail? Instead of what's possible, I asked what's invisible. These questions rewired my brain to hunt for hidden truths, for patterns beneath the surface. This habit became a mental muscle. The more I asked better questions, the sharper my intuition became. The answers didn't always come quickly, but when they did, they were breakthroughs that changed the game. To embed these habits, I created emotional anchors for myself. I rewarded clarity with small celebrations, moments of pause to savor insight. I made distraction uncomfortable, reminding myself how wasted time was lost opportunity. I built rituals that guarded my energy, like starting my day in silence and ending with reflection. These habits trapped my lazy mind before it could trap my future. I discovered that stories are the foundation of leadership. Facts alone rarely move people. It's the story those facts tell that drives action. I started crafting my own internal narrative, seeing myself not just as a manager, but as a visionary leader already winning. This mental story activated a hidden filter in my brain called the reticular activating system. Suddenly, I noticed opportunities and patterns I used to miss. Doors I thought were closed began to open. Challenges turned into invitations. This shift wasn't magic, it was neuroscience. When your brain believes something is important, it seeks it out relentlessly. I programmed my mind to focus on success, resilience, and growth. Every day, I reinforced that story with words, thoughts, and actions. Obsession became my secret weapon. Not the unhealthy kind, but disciplined, focused, and intentional. I obsessed over outcomes, reverse engineering the steps needed to get there. I asked, if this is the result I want, what thinking will produce it? I practiced those thoughts until they became part of who I was. My identity changed. I was no longer just trying to be a CEO. I was becoming one. I also learned that great leadership is full of contradictions. I had to be bold, yet patient. I had to dream big, yet stay obsessed with details. I had to be emotionally invested, but logically detached. These paradoxes didn't weaken me. They sharpened my edge. The more I leaned into these contradictions, the more powerful I became. I wasn't predictable anymore. Predictability is a weakness. Once people think they can guess your next move, they stop respecting you. So, I trained myself to break patterns. If they expected me to react with anger, I responded with calm. If they thought I would stay silent, I spoke with precision. If they thought I would follow the crowd, I built my own path. Unpredictability became my greatest shield. I started moving like water, soft when needed, fierce when necessary. I became a mirror to my team, showing them what excellence looked like without ever demanding it. I didn't just talk about leadership, I lived it. I became a standard, not just a speaker. And here's what shocked me. The more I grew into this identity, the less I had to say. My presence did the speaking. My habits did the leading. People began to ask me, what changed? And I'd smile because the truth is, nothing changed. I just stopped pretending. I stopped performing leadership and started becoming it. And now I'll tell you the secret. The 199% of CEOs will never admit. Leadership isn't a title. It's not a strategy. It's not even a skill. Leadership is a psychological identity. Once you believe, deeply and unconsciously, that you are a leader worth following, your entire nervous system rewires itself. Your tone changes. Your presence deepens. Your words start to land differently. People lean in when you speak, not because of what you say, but because of who you are when you say it. You don't need more tactics. You need a transformation. And that transformation starts with one question. What kind of leader would I follow into the fire? Now become that. Every day, relentlessly. And when others wonder how you got there, you'll know the truth. Because I stopped chasing leadership and became it. Sometimes, late at night, I replay my journey in my mind. Not the successes, not the applause, but the doubts, the inner chaos, the quiet moments when I almost gave up. That's where I found the real leadership. Not in books, not in boardrooms, but in those dark, silent battles with myself. The final thing they won't tell you, because it scares them, is that leadership is lonely. Not because you're isolated, but because few people are willing to carry the kind of internal weight that leadership demands. The pressure to hold the vision when no one sees it. To hold people accountable while they project their failures onto you. To absorb blame, deflect praise, and still wake up with fire in your chest the next morning. But here's the paradox. The more you embrace that loneliness, the more connected you become. Because people feel your depth. They sense your scars, even if you never show them. They follow you because they know you've walked through fire. Not around it, not above it, but through it. And when you lead from that place, leadership becomes love. Not soft, fuzzy love. Fierce love. Brave love. The kind of love that demands growth. That holds people to higher standards. That doesn't rescue, but elevates. So now I ask you, are you ready to lead from that place? Not with tricks, not with tactics, but with your whole being? Then stop waiting. Stop preparing. Stop doubting. Step forward. Speak with power. Breathe with intention. Walk like your vision is dragging the world forward behind you. Because it is. And here's the final punchline. The truth behind everything I've shared. Real leadership doesn't need a stage. It just needs someone who's ready to become it. That someone is you.